Our history books are fundamentally incomplete. Across the globe, 25 forgotten archaeological discoveries stand in direct contradiction to established timelines. By the end of this, you will see the entire narrative of human civilization in a completely new light. How could a modern hammer be found sealed inside rock 100 million years old? Why does a map from the 1500s show a continent buried under ice for millennia? These are not isolated mistakes, but a pattern of evidence pointing to a past we have yet to fully comprehend. What does it say about our own understanding of time when the very ground beneath our feet holds such impossible secrets? That established timeline feels solid, almost like a fortress built over centuries of careful work. Its foundations are the trusted methods of carbon dating, which measures the decay of organic materials, and stratigraphy, the simple principle that deeper layers of soil are generally older than those above them. This framework paints a clear, sequential picture of our past. We see nomadic hunter-gatherers, then the revolutionary dawn of agriculture, and finally, the brilliant flash of the first great civilizations in places like Mesopotamia and the Nile Valley. This narrative is logical, well-supported, and taught in every classroom. Yet, its very strength can become its greatest weakness. When a new discovery does not fit neatly into this pre-existing box, the entire scientific community faces a difficult choice. Does it re-examine the foundations of the box, or does it simply set the awkward evidence aside? Too often, the path of least resistance is taken. An object that defies explanation is classified as an anomaly, an out-of-place artifact, a term that sounds clinical but really just means a mystery we have decided not to solve. These items frequently end up forgotten in the back rooms of museums, their stories untold because they disrupt a story we have already written. This is the essential tension we must understand, a conflict between the comfort of a known narrative and the unsettling but thrilling potential of a new one. These forgotten artifacts are often hiding in plain sight, catalogued in museum archives yet stripped of their true significance. To be forgotten in archaeology is not about physical loss, but a loss of context, a deliberate quieting of an object's disruptive voice. Imagine a single piece of a puzzle that does not match the picture on the box. The common reaction is not to question the entire box, but to assume the piece is from a different game altogether. This is the fate of so many of these discoveries. They become inconvenient truths, their very existence a challenge to powerful academic careers and long-held textbooks. Many were unearthed during the infancy of modern archaeology, a time when the very tools needed to understand them, like advanced material analysis or precise dating methods, simply did not exist. Without a framework for interpretation, they were labeled as curiosities or even hoaxes, their secrets buried under layers of skepticism. This process of selective memory reveals a profound human truth, our deep-seated resistance to paradigm shifts. We are comforted by a linear, predictable past, an artifact that suggests advanced technology in a supposedly primitive era does not just confuse the timeline, it unsettles our entire narrative of human progress. It asks us to consider that brilliant innovation might not be a steady climb, but a cycle of loss and rediscovery. This tension between the fortress of established knowledge and the scattered keys that could unlock its gates is precisely what makes this search so compelling. Our first key to this forgotten past was discovered in the dry Texas earth, a simple hammer lodged within a solid rock nodule. Known as the London hammer, this ordinary-looking tool is anything but. Its wooden handle had turned to coal, a process of fossilization requiring immense age, and the iron of its head was forged with a purity that should not exist in the ancient strata where it was found. The rock encasing it is dated to the Cretaceous period, a time over 100 million years ago when dinosaurs were the planet's dominant life. The contradiction is absolute. Either the geological dating of that stone is completely wrong, or we must accept that a being capable of crafting a sophisticated metal tool walked the earth alongside creatures like Tyrannosaurus rex. This single artifact challenges the very pillars of our historical narrative. It asks us whether our dating methods, which we consider infallible, might sometimes mislead us, or if the story of intelligent life on this planet is far older and more complex than we have ever dared to believe. Far out in the Aegean Sea, a storm-battered Roman ship met its end, carrying a secret that would lie dormant for 2,000 years. When sponge divers discovered the wreck off the coast of Antikythera at the dawn of the 20th century, they brought up a corroded lump of bronze and wood that seemed unremarkable. It was only decades later, when researchers peered inside using advanced imaging, that the true marvel was revealed. This was no simple statue or amphora. It was a device of breathtaking complexity, an intricate clockwork of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, some so finely cut they bear teeth smaller than a grain of rice. This is the Antikythera Mechanism, and it shatters our image of ancient technology. It was, in essence, an analog computer, a machine designed to calculate the movements of the heavens. By turning a hand crank, an ancient user could predict the positions of the sun, the moon, and the planets. It could forecast lunar and solar eclipses, and even model the irregular orbit of the moon. This was not mere stargazing. It was precise mathematical astronomy of a kind that historians believed was impossible before the great clockwork mechanisms of medieval Europe, over a millennium later. The existence of this device implies something profound, that a deep and sophisticated tradition of engineering and scientific thought flourished in the ancient Greek world, a tradition so advanced that its loss set back human progress for centuries. We are left to wonder who were the geniuses who designed this, what knowledge was contained in the lost libraries and workshops that produced it. The Antikythera Mechanism is not just a relic, it is a ghost, a silent echo from a golden age of science we can only barely comprehend. It forces us to ask a difficult question: is our story of slow, steady technological ascent simply wrong? Could progress be a cycle where brilliance flares and then is tragically extinguished, leaving only fragments behind for future generations to puzzle over? The quiet persistence of such mysteries echoes in the American West, where a seemingly ordinary stone revealed an impossibility. In 1961, 3 rockhound enthusiasts were searching for minerals near Olancha, California, when they split open a common geode. Inside the hardened, ancient nodule, they did not find the expected crystal cavity, but a rigid, manufactured object. It appeared to be a modern spark plug, complete with a porcelain insulator and a central metallic shaft. This was the Coso Artifact, and its context was the problem. The geode itself was encased in a layer of hard clay and fossil shells, and geological analysis suggested the concretion had formed over 500,000 years ago. This date places the object's entombment deep in the Pleistocene epoch, a world of early hominids and mammoths, a time impossibly remote from the invention of the internal combustion engine. The internal components are unmistakably consistent with 20th century technology, a fact that creates an unresolvable conflict. How does a piece of sophisticated machinery find itself sealed inside a stone that predates human civilization by hundreds of millennia? The most common skeptical explanation is that it is indeed a champion spark plug from the 1920s that, through some unknown natural process, became heavily mineralized over a few short decades. Yet the official geological report and X-ray images, which show a structure unlike any known spark plug, continue to fuel intense debate. This single object blurs the line between ancient and modern so thoroughly that it forces us to consider extraordinary possibilities. Could it be evidence of a visit from an advanced, perhaps non-human, culture in the distant past? Or does it point to a cyclical view of history, where a technologically advanced civilization rose and fell in a forgotten age, leaving only the faintest, most perplexing traces behind? The Coso Artifact refuses to fit neatly into our timeline, a silent, stubborn key to a door we have not yet found. While the Antikythera Mechanism represents a lost peak of mechanical genius, a far simpler discovery from the sands of Iraq suggests an entirely different kind of ancient knowledge. Unearthed just outside Baghdad in the 1930s, a collection of unassuming terracotta jars holds a secret that challenges the very origins of electrical science. Each pot, dating to the Parthian period around 2,000 years ago, contains a surprising assembly, a copper cylinder carefully soldered with a lead and tin alloy, housing a solid iron rod. When these jars are reconstructed and filled with an acidic electrolyte like vinegar or grape juice, something remarkable happens. They produce a measurable electric current. This is the Baghdad Battery, a simple galvanic cell predating the celebrated work of Alessandro Volta by nearly 18 centuries. The implications are staggering. What was this current used for? One compelling theory is that these cells were employed in electroplating, using electricity to deposit a thin layer of gold onto silver objects, a practice that would explain the exquisite gilding found on some artifacts from the region. Another possibility is their use in a form of early electrotherapy, where a mild shock was applied for ceremonial or wellness purposes. The very existence of these objects forces a profound shift in perspective. It suggests that the fundamental principles of electromagnetism were not only observed but harnessed for practical application in a time we often label as primitive. This is not about finding a complex machine, but about recognizing a basic, working understanding of a natural force that would not be officially rediscovered for over 1,000 years. It paints a picture of a technological landscape where innovation took paths we are only beginning to trace, reminding us that the history of science is not a straight line but a tapestry with many frayed and forgotten threads. High in the remote Bayan Karaula Mountains, a different kind of mystery was reportedly uncovered, one that shifts the question from lost human technology to something even more profound. The story of the Dropa Stones begins in the late 1930s with an archaeological expedition exploring a series of mountain caves. There, they allegedly discovered hundreds of unusual stone discs, each with a hole in its center and a fine spiral groove leading from that hole to the outer edge. Upon closer inspection, those grooves were not natural at all, but were said to be composed of a continuous line of tiny, unknown hieroglyphic characters. The narrative that emerged from the translation of these glyphs is what sends this story into the realm of the extraordinary. The inscriptions supposedly tell of a group of beings, the Dropa, whose spacecraft crashed in the inhospitable mountains thousands of years ago. Unable to repair their vessel, they were stranded on our world, eventually integrating with the local human population. If this account is genuine, it would not merely rewrite history, it would fundamentally redefine humanity's place in the cosmos, suggesting our past was shaped by an encounter from the stars. Mainstream archaeology largely dismisses the entire affair as an elaborate hoax, pointing to a lack of physical evidence and verifiable documentation. The original discs have never been subjected to mainstream academic analysis, and the key figures in the story are difficult to trace. Yet, the legend endures, a powerful cultural touchstone that speaks to a deep, almost innate curiosity about our origins. The Dropa Stones challenge us on a philosophical level. They force us to ask where the line lies between myth and history, and whether our current methods of archaeological validation are equipped to handle a discovery of such a potentially revolutionary nature. Are these stones a forgotten record of an ancient contact, or are they a modern fable reflecting our own cosmic aspirations? Regardless of their authenticity, their enduring mystery highlights a powerful human desire to look to the heavens and wonder if we have ever truly been alone. Buried within a tomb in Saqqara, a small wooden artifact rests, its shape defying simple explanation. Known as the Saqqara Bird, this object was crafted around 200 years before the Common Era, and it looks nothing like the typical bird carvings of ancient Egypt. It features a sleek, tapered fuselage, a pair of straight, level wings, and a distinct vertical tailplane that looks less like a bird's tail and more like the stabilizer on a modern aircraft. To the modern eye, it is unmistakably a model airplane. Mainstream archaeology classifies it as a ceremonial object, perhaps a toy or a stylized representation of a falcon. But this conventional explanation fails to satisfy a simple test, the laws of physics. When aviation engineers and aerodynamics experts examined the object, they made a startling observation. The proportions of the wings and body and the specific angle of the tail are not merely decorative, they are aerodynamically sound. Replicas built to the exact specifications of the Saqqara Bird have been tested, and they demonstrate a remarkable ability to glide through the air with stability and lift. This is not a bird that merely looks like a plane, it is a design that flies like one. So what are we to make of this? Was it a child's toy based on a lucky guess, or does it represent something far more profound? A working understanding of flight principles in an age we assume was technologically grounded. The implications are staggering. It suggests that the ancient Egyptians, the master builders of pyramids and towering obelisks, may have possessed a branch of practical science dedicated to the sky. Perhaps they were not just looking up at the birds in wonder, but were actively studying their flight, experimenting with models, and unlocking the secrets of aerodynamics over 2,000 years before the Wright brothers. This single, silent artifact forces us to reimagine the entire landscape of ancient innovation. It whispers of workshops where lost knowledge was practiced, of blueprints for machines that were never built on a grand scale, or perhaps were built and have long since returned to dust. The Saqqara Bird does not just challenge our timeline, it asks us to look at the ancient world not as a place of slow, steady development, but as a potential hotbed of brilliant, isolated discoveries, many of which were lost to time, leaving behind only these cryptic, tantalizing clues. In the quiet Peruvian town of Ica, a local physician began amassing a collection of stones that would become one of archaeology's most contentious puzzles. These are the Ica Stones, thousands of andesite river rocks carved with intricate scenes that defy every established chapter of our history. They depict humans living alongside creatures we recognize as stegosaurs and triceratops, engaging with them not as monsters but as familiar parts of their world. Other stones show figures performing what appears to be advanced medicine, using tools to conduct complex surgical procedures like heart transplants and cesarean sections. Still others illustrate an intimate knowledge of astronomy, with detailed star maps and celestial mechanics that seem far beyond the capabilities of any known ancient culture in the Americas. The sheer volume of these stones is overwhelming, creating a parallel history etched in stone. The controversy, however, is just as vast. Many of these stones have been conclusively proven to be modern forgeries, crafted by local farmers seeking to profit from the curiosity of collectors. The admission of these forgeries has cast a long shadow over the entire collection, allowing mainstream science to dismiss them all as an elaborate hoax. Yet the origin of the very first stones remains shrouded in mystery, reported to have been found in ancient tombs long before the modern carving began. This is the central dilemma of Ica. If even a small fraction of these stones are authentic relics from a forgotten time, they present a narrative that is impossible to reconcile with our current understanding. They suggest a prehistoric civilization that possessed not only a detailed knowledge of paleontology, a science we ourselves only developed in the last 2 centuries, but also medical and astronomical expertise that seems to leapfrog millennia of human development. The images create a timeline where the distant past and a hypothetical advanced future violently collide. This forces a deeper, more uncomfortable question beyond their authenticity. How do we separate a genuine historical mystery from the noise of modern deception? The Ica Stones challenge the very methods we use to authenticate the past, reminding us that a single proven forgery can be used to tarnish an entire body of evidence, potentially obscuring a genuine truth we are not yet ready to face. They stand as a cautionary tale about the fragility of our historical record and the powerful role that hoaxes can play in burying a real mystery. A world map should reflect the limits of its own time, but the Piri Reis Map shatters those limits entirely. Crafted in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this fragment of a larger world chart is a historical paradox drawn on parchment. It displays the eastern coast of South America with a startling accuracy that European explorers of the era could not have possessed. Yet its most profound mystery lies far to the south, in a place that should have been a blank space on a 16th century chart. The map depicts a landmass connected to that southern continent, showing a detailed, ice-free coastline that corresponds uncannily with the land beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. This is the map's true impossibility. The continent of Antarctica would not be officially sighted for another 300 years, and its coastline has been buried under thousands of feet of ice for millennia. The last time these lands were visible to human eyes was at the end of the last ice age, over 6,000 years ago. So how could an Ottoman admiral in the 1500s have known what lay hidden at the bottom of the world? The key is in the admiral's own notes. Piri Reis openly stated that his map was a compilation, drawn from many source maps, some of which he claimed dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. He was not the original surveyor, he was merely the last person to copy from a much older, lost master chart. This suggests the existence of a prehistoric seafaring civilization, a culture with the technology and courage to traverse the globe, mapping continents with a precision that would not be matched again until the 20th century. This single piece of parchment implies a golden age of exploration that predates recorded history, a time when ancient mariners may have sailed across the world's oceans, their knowledge preserved in scattered libraries only to be lost for thousands of years. The map forces a monumental question. Did our ancestors possess a complete understanding of the planet's geography long before we ever thought possible? And is the entire timeline of human discovery merely a story of rediscovery after a catastrophic forgetting? The Piri Reis Map is not just a drawing, it is a ghost of a forgotten world, a silent testament to a chapter of human ambition that our history books have yet to write. The Voynich Manuscript is a book that should not exist. For centuries, this dense codex has resisted every attempt to read a single word, its pages filled with an alphabet that belongs to no known language. Carbon dating places its creation in the early 15th century, yet its contents seem to hail from another world entirely. The text flows in a graceful, unknown script, accompanied by illustrations that defy categorization. There are sprawling charts of unfamiliar stars and planets, their constellations unlike anything in our night sky. Delicate, full-page paintings depict plants with bizarre, impossible morphologies, species that have no counterpart in the botanical records of our planet. Other sections show intricate diagrams of celestial spheres and networks of pipes and vessels that some interpret as biological or alchemical in nature, populated by small nude figures bathing in strange, interconnected pools. The entire volume is a beautiful, maddening puzzle. Is it an incredibly complex cipher hiding the alchemical secrets of a medieval genius? Could it be a linguistic relic, the sole surviving document of a culture that vanished without a trace, taking its entire system of knowledge with it? Or is it, as some skeptics argue, the world's most elaborate and persistent hoax, a meaningless creation designed to confound? The very endurance of its mystery is what makes it so significant. For all our advanced code-breaking algorithms and historical scholarship, this one book remains a locked door. It stands as a silent testament to the profound gaps in our understanding, a physical reminder that the past may hold entire schools of thought, complete systems of communication and science that have been so utterly lost we cannot even begin to decipher their ghosts. It challenges our arrogance, forcing us to acknowledge that history is not a fully illuminated library, but a vast room where we hold a candle to only a few of the shelves. Deep within the river deltas of Costa Rica, dozens of colossal stone spheres stand as silent, perfect monuments to a forgotten world. Known as the stone spheres of the Diquis, these artifacts range from the size of a bowling ball to massive orbs over 2 meters in diameter and weighing several tons. Their craftsmanship is what defies belief. Carved from a hard igneous rock called granodiorite, they achieve a near-perfect spherical shape, with surface variations so minute that modern engineers marvel at their precision. For a pre-Columbian society without metal tools, the creation of even one such sphere would represent a staggering feat of labor, patience, and geometric understanding. The question of how they were made is only the beginning of the puzzle. The true mystery lies in their purpose. Why would a culture invest such immense effort into dozens of these perfect forms, only to scatter them across the landscape? Some researchers suggest they were arranged in patterns mirroring constellations, serving as a physical map of the heavens for a people deeply connected to celestial cycles. Others theorize they marked territorial boundaries or denoted the social status of powerful chieftains. Yet, without any written records from the culture that created them, their true meaning remains locked within the stone. These spheres are not crude totems. They are evidence of a sophisticated society that possessed a profound knowledge of mathematics and an ability to manipulate their environment on a grand scale. Their silent presence challenges the old narrative of isolated, simple societies in the pre-Columbian Americas, forcing us to see a landscape dotted with complex, technologically adept civilizations whose stories have been almost completely erased by time. They are a powerful reminder that a society's legacy is not always written in words, but sometimes carved in perfect, enigmatic forms that endure long after their creators have passed from memory. What other secrets of their world are still hidden, waiting for us to learn how to ask the right questions? The desert floor in Peru holds a gallery of giants, a sprawling canvas of art so immense its creators could never have witnessed their own masterpiece. These are the Nazca Lines, geoglyphs carved into the stark landscape by removing the dark surface pebbles to reveal the lighter earth beneath. They form a menagerie of colossal creatures, a spider, a hummingbird, a monkey, each stretching hundreds of feet across the arid plain, alongside precise geometric shapes and straight lines that run for miles to the horizon. The sheer scale is only half the mystery, the precision is the other. The creators executed these designs with a mathematical exactness that seems to defy their ground-level perspective. How did they achieve such perfect proportions and straight lines over such vast distances without the ability to view their work from above? This implies a sophisticated knowledge of surveying and geometry, a system of planning and measurement that allowed them to translate a small-scale model into a landscape-sized monument. The purpose behind this immense effort is the central, enduring question. Mainstream archaeology offers compelling theories, suggesting the lines were sacred pathways used for ceremonial walks, or that they formed a vast astronomical calendar, aligning with celestial events to mark seasons and guide agriculture. Yet the very nature of the designs, which only reveal their cohesive form from a vantage point high in the air, has fueled more speculative ideas. Could they have been meant for viewers who were not on the ground at all? The controversial theory that they were landing strips or signals for aerial beings, while firmly on the fringe of science, underscores a fundamental point. It highlights our own deep-seated confusion when faced with a monument whose full impact is lost on its creators. This forces a profound consideration of lost knowledge. Perhaps the Nazca people possessed a technology or a perceptual system we can no longer grasp, a way of seeing or a purpose that made perfect sense within their worldview, but has since vanished from human understanding. The lines are not just drawings, they are a question etched into the planet itself, asking us to look beyond our own assumptions about what ancient peoples were capable of achieving, and to wonder what magnificent, forgotten reasons they had for reaching for the sky. Isolated in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the monumental stone faces of Easter Island gaze inland with an eternal, silent watch. These are the moai, and their creation is a paradox carved from volcanic rock. Each statue is a staggering achievement, with some standing over 30 feet tall and weighing as much as 80 tons. The society that carved them, the Rapa Nui, did so with stone hand tools, demonstrating a patience and skill that is almost incomprehensible. Yet the greater mystery is not how they were carved, but how they were moved. The island is crisscrossed with ancient roads leading from the quarry to various coastal platforms, and for centuries, the method of transportation was a complete enigma. How could a population, estimated to be only in the thousands, with no wheels or large animals, maneuver these colossal figures for miles across rugged terrain? The debate has raged for generations. One long-held theory suggested they were dragged horizontally on log rollers, a method that would have consumed vast quantities of the island's precious timber. More recently, a compelling and almost theatrical alternative has been proposed, that the moai were made to walk. In this theory, teams of people would have rocked the statues from side to side using ropes, creating a shuffling, upright gait that propelled them forward. This method would require a deep, intuitive understanding of physics and center of mass, a form of practical engineering passed down through generations. Whether they walked or were dragged, the sheer logistical effort speaks of a complex, highly organized society capable of uniting for a monumental common purpose. This makes their eventual decline all the more poignant. The prevailing narrative suggests that the very act of creating the moai, particularly the consumption of forest resources for transportation and tools, may have contributed to severe environmental strain. The story of the Rapa Nui is often framed as a cautionary tale about resource management on a fragile island, yet to see the moai only as a symbol of collapse is to miss their true power. They are first and foremost a testament to the incredible heights of human ingenuity. They challenge our modern arrogance, forcing us to ask if we have underestimated the creative and organizational power of so-called primitive cultures. These silent giants stand not just as a warning, but as a defiant declaration of what a small, isolated community can achieve when driven by a powerful, shared vision, leaving behind a legacy that continues to baffle and inspire the entire world. Beneath the waves off the coast of Japan lies a structure so immense and enigmatic that it blurs the line between the natural world and the hand of an ancient builder. The Yonaguni Monument is a colossal formation of sandstone, rising from the seafloor like a sunken pyramid. To swim around it is to encounter a landscape of impossible geometry, vast terraces that drop in clean, sharp levels, what appear to be wide staircases with perfectly straight steps, and even a feature that many observers identify as a carved human face. The entire structure feels like the ruins of a ceremonial complex, a place designed with purpose. The central debate surrounding Yonaguni is a fundamental one. Is this a masterpiece of natural erosion or a relic of human ambition? Geologists point to the region's active seismic faults, which can fracture sandstone along straight plains, creating the appearance of carved surfaces. They argue that nature, given enough time, is a powerful sculptor in its own right. Yet other researchers counter with the sheer accumulation of seemingly architectural details. They highlight the two near-perfectly rectangular columns standing side by side, the precise 90-degree angles where walls meet, and the way the various platforms and steps appear systematically arranged. If even a fraction of these features were intentionally shaped, it forces a staggering rewrite of history. For the Yonaguni Monument to have been a work of human hands, it would have to have been built or carved when the structure was above water, a time when global sea levels were dramatically lower. This places its potential construction at the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 years before the Common Era. This date is a profound problem for conventional history. It predates the oldest known monumental architecture on Earth, like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, by several millennia. It suggests the existence of a culture lost to the rising oceans that possessed not only the seafaring ability to reach this remote island, but also the advanced engineering skill to shape stone on a gargantuan scale. The monument stands as a silent, submerged sentinel, guarding the secrets of a civilization that was completely erased from our records by the melting glaciers of a forgotten age. It forces us to confront a haunting possibility that the most significant chapters of our human story may not be buried in deserts or hidden in jungles, but may lie submerged, waiting on the ocean floor for us to finally recognize their shape. This ancient sanctuary in Turkey stands as a monumental question mark carved from limestone. Göbekli Tepe, dating back to around 9,600 years before the Common Era, is not merely old, it is impossibly ancient. Its construction predates the invention of pottery, the rise of writing, and even the founding of the first known cities by thousands of years. What its builders left behind is a sprawling complex of massive, T-shaped stone pillars, intricately carved with images of animals and arranged in vast, deliberate circles. This is the world's oldest known temple, and its existence shatters one of the most fundamental narratives of human history, the story of the Neolithic Revolution. For generations, we have been taught a simple, logical progression. Humanity first learned to farm, which created a food surplus. This surplus allowed people to settle in permanent villages, which grew into towns and cities. Only then, with the stability and organization that agriculture provided, did humans have the time and resources to develop complex religion and build monumental structures. Göbekli Tepe turns this entire sequence on its head. Here, at the very dawn of the Neolithic Age, we find a society of hunter-gatherers who somehow organized themselves to construct one of the most ambitious architectural projects the world had ever seen. They quarried, carved, and transported pillars weighing up to 20 tons, erecting them in precise alignments that suggest a deep, shared cosmology. This was not the work of a simple, nomadic band. It was the product of a sophisticated culture with a powerful, unifying vision. The implication is staggering. It suggests that the human drive to create monumental sacred spaces, to gather for a shared spiritual purpose, may have been the very catalyst that sparked civilization itself. Perhaps it was the need to build and maintain this temple that first encouraged people to settle, to coordinate labor, and to eventually experiment with cultivating crops to feed the workers. What if agriculture was not the cause of complex society, but its consequence? Göbekli Tepe forces us to rewrite the origin story of civilization, placing the spiritual and communal ambitions of humanity at the very center of our journey, a profound reminder that our greatest monuments may have been built not from surplus, but from a shared, compelling need to reach for something greater than ourselves. Far from the jungles of Costa Rica, a similar geological mystery emerged in the heart of Europe. In the forests of Bosnia, large spherical stones were discovered, their forms so unnaturally round they seemed to defy the random chaos of nature. These objects, some weighing many tons, are composed of a dense sandstone and share a startling resemblance to their Central American counterparts. The immediate and passionate debate they ignited reveals a core challenge in archaeology itself, the sometimes blurry line between a remarkable natural formation and the work of human hands. Mainstream geology offers a compelling explanation for their existence, classifying them as concretions. This is a process where mineral cement naturally accumulates within the spaces between sediment grains, sometimes forming spheres as the material solidifies over immense periods. For many scientists, this is a complete and satisfactory answer, a testament to the powerful, sculpting forces of the Earth. Yet, other researchers point to features that seem to resist such a simple classification. They highlight stones of such near-perfect symmetry that they appear machined, and note their curious tendency to cluster in specific areas, an arrangement that feels deliberate rather than random. The surfaces of some spheres also display what appear to be tool marks, subtle lines and facets that suggest shaping. If these features are indeed the result of human craftsmanship, the implications are profound. It would mean that a previously unknown culture, possessing sophisticated stone working skills and a clear artistic or ceremonial vision, once flourished in prehistoric Europe. This would add a complex new layer to the continent's ancient map, forcing us to reconsider the flow of ideas and the independent development of technology in different parts of the world. The very intensity of the debate over these Bosnian spheres is what makes them so significant. They force us to confront the limits of our own interpretive frameworks. When does a pattern become so consistent that we must consider an intelligent designer? And if we are too quick to dismiss an anomaly as purely natural, could we be inadvertently erasing the faint, physical signature of a civilization that has been completely lost to time? These silent stone orbs, whether products of geological artistry or human genius, stand as a powerful reminder that our planet's past holds stories we are still learning how to read. A single silver coin, no larger than a thumbnail, was unearthed amidst the shell heaps and ancient tools of a Native American settlement in Maine. This is the Maine Penny, and its journey is a mystery written in metal. Scientific analysis confirms it is a Norse coin from the 11th century, minted during the reign of King Olaf Kyrre. It is, to this day, the only pre-Columbian Norse artifact ever discovered within the United States. The official narrative of Norse presence in the Americas places them squarely at Elance Ox Meadows in Newfoundland, a small, seasonal settlement at the very northern edge of the continent. Yet here, over 1,000 miles to the south, lies this solitary piece of Scandinavian currency. How did it travel such a vast distance? The most accepted explanation is one of long-distance trade, passed hand to hand through intricate indigenous networks that stretched far beyond the horizons of any single tribe. It could have moved over generations, a curious object traveling south from a chance encounter with Norse visitors in the far north. But there is another, more thrilling possibility. What if the coin arrived not through a long chain of local trade, but directly from the hands of a Norse explorer? This tiny artifact raises the profound question of whether Viking ships, those iconic dragon-prowed vessels, ventured much further down the North American coastline than our history books dare to suggest. It hints at forgotten expeditions of ships that may have sailed past the evergreen forests of Newfoundland, perhaps exploring the river systems of what is now New England. The Maine Penny does not stand as proof of a Norse settlement in the region, but it powerfully challenges the simplicity of the Columbus discovery story. It suggests that the pre-Columbian world was far more interconnected than we once believed, a place where the Atlantic was not an impenetrable barrier but a potential highway for the most daring of sailors. This one coin forces us to see the map of the 11th century not as a collection of isolated continents, but as a world where threads of contact, however fragile and rare, were already being woven across the sea. Buried alongside the bones of ancient giants, a single metal object defies any logical explanation. In 1974, construction workers digging a trench along the Mureș River in Aiud, Romania, uncovered a collection of fossils identified as mastodon remains, creatures from the Pleistocene era that vanished over 10,000 years ago. Nestled among these ancient bones was a curious wedge-shaped artifact. It was heavily encrusted, but when cleaned, analysis revealed it was composed of an alloy, primarily aluminum. This discovery creates an unresolvable paradox. Aluminum is one of the most common metals on Earth, but it is never found in its pure form in nature. It requires an incredibly high-temperature industrial process, the Hall-Héroult method, to be separated from its ore, a technology that was not invented until the late 19th century. For this man-made metal to be found in a geological layer alongside Ice Age fossils suggests one of two impossible scenarios. Either our dating of that entire stratum is catastrophically wrong, or a culture possessing advanced metallurgy existed when early humans were still using simple stone tools. Skeptics propose it is simply a fragment from a more recent piece of machinery, perhaps a digging tooth from a modern excavator that somehow became mixed with the fossils. Yet the official report from the initial investigation noted the object was covered in a thick, ancient layer of oxide, consistent with it having lain undisturbed for millennia. This small, unassuming wedge is a perfect storm of contradictions. It forces us to confront the unsettling possibility that our current understanding of technological progress is not just incomplete, but fundamentally mistaken. Could there have been a cycle of civilization, a peak of knowledge and industry that was lost in some distant cataclysm, leaving behind only these scattered, inexplicable fragments? The Aiud Wedge does not offer answers, only a profound and silent challenge to the linear story we tell ourselves about our own past. A single stone, unearthed from the roots of a Minnesota poplar tree, carries an inscription that could tear a century from our history books. The Kensington Runestone, discovered by a Swedish immigrant farmer in 1898, is a slab of grey-wacky sandstone covered in ancient runes. The message carved into its face is a desperate one, a record of a Norse expedition that met a tragic end deep in the North American interior. It tells of 8 Goths and 22 Norwegians on a voyage of exploration from Vinland, and it chillingly records that 10 men were red with blood and dead. The date given is 1362, 130 years after the Viking settlement at Elant's Ox Meadows was abandoned and a full century before Christopher Columbus set sail. If this stone is authentic, it means that Norse explorers journeyed over 2,000 miles from the coast into the very heart of the continent. encountering indigenous peoples in an event that ended in conflict. This narrative directly challenges the established timeline of European presence in the Americas, suggesting a much deeper and more complex pre-Columbian history. The academic world has largely branded it a clever forgery, pointing to the farmer's own Swedish background and the seemingly anachronistic mix of runes in the inscription. Yet the stone refuses to be so easily dismissed. Geological analysis has confirmed the extreme age of the carvings, noting that the weathering within the runic grooves is consistent with having been exposed to the elements for several centuries. The debate itself reveals a profound tension within the study of the past. A single piece of evidence, no matter how compelling, faces an almost insurmountable challenge when it stands against a deeply entrenched historical consensus. The Kensington Runestone is more than a rock, it is a symbol of that struggle. It asks us who gets to write history and whether our collective story is a fixed monument or a living narrative, always one discovery away from being rewritten. This narrative of a forgotten, interconnected world finds a powerful voice in 3 small clay discs. Unearthed from a burial site in Romania, the Tartaria Tablets are unassuming in appearance, but their implications are colossal. Carbon dated to around 5,300 years before the Common Era, they are potentially the oldest known form of writing on the planet. They predate the celebrated cuneiform of Mesopotamia by hundreds of years, a fact that strikes directly at the foundation of a story we have long taken for granted. For generations, history has pointed to the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers as the singular cradle of civilization, the place where humanity first invented cities, law, and crucially, the written word. The Tartaria Tablets challenge this entire framework, covered in a series of abstract, deeply enigmatic symbols that have resisted all attempts at translation. They suggest something revolutionary. If these markings are a true script, they mean that a sophisticated society in southeastern Europe had developed a symbolic system for communication, for recording thought, completely independently of the Middle East. This transforms the idea of a single cradle into a landscape of multiple, simultaneous dawns. It paints a picture of a Neolithic world where complex ideas were flowering in different soils, where the human impulse to record and communicate was not a single invention that spread, but a spark that could ignite in multiple places at once. The silence of these tablets is deafening. What stories do their cryptic symbols hold? What laws, what myths, what daily transactions were they meant to preserve? They stand as a stark reminder that the origins of civilization are not a simple linear path, but a tangled, ancient web of human genius whose full pattern we are only beginning to trace. The walls of the Hathor Temple at Dendera hold a carving that seems to defy its own era. Within a stone relief, a priest stands holding a large, translucent vessel shaped like an elongated pear. Inside this vessel, a snake uncoils in a distinctive wavy line, its head touching the tip of the object. A cable, unmistakably carved, runs from the base of this bulb-like shape to a box upon which the priest rests his feet, while a second figure stands behind him, as if in a supportive role. To any modern observer, the scene is startlingly clear. It looks exactly like an oversized light bulb, complete with its filament and power source. The conventional Egyptological interpretation offers a different, symbolic reading. It is explained as a depiction of a cosmic creation myth, showing a lotus flower giving birth to a snake god, representing the cycle of life and the dawning sun emerging from the primordial waters. This explanation is deeply rooted in the complex and beautiful symbolism of Egyptian religion, yet the visual parallel is so precise, so mechanically coherent, that it invites a profound question. Could both interpretations hold a fragment of the truth, Perhaps the priests of Hathor, seeking to describe a technology they harnessed but did not fully comprehend in our modern scientific terms, encoded its image within their rich tapestry of myth. They may have used the symbolic language they knew, the lotus and the serpent, to represent a very real, glowing, electrical phenomenon. This is the core of the Dendera Light mystery. It forces us to consider that the line between advanced technology and sacred magic might have been far thinner in the ancient world than we assume. For a culture that saw the divine in the natural forces of the world, would not a device that produced the very essence of the sun, a sustained and brilliant light, be considered a sacred object, a piece of the divine made manifest on earth? The relief does not demand that we believe the Egyptians had a modern electrical grid, but it powerfully suggests they may have understood and manipulated natural principles in ways we are only beginning to glimpse. It asks us to look upon their art not just as a record of their beliefs, but as a potential blueprint for a forgotten science, a science expressed in the only language they had. Carved with a precision that seems to belong to another age, the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone is an artifact that refuses to tell its story. Discovered by workers digging a fence post in New Hampshire in 1872, this dark, egg-shaped piece of quartzite is a gallery of enigmatic symbols. One side bears a solemn face while the other displays a teepee, an ear of corn, a spiral, and other patterns whose meanings are lost to us. The material itself is the first clue to its strange origins, a type of stone not found anywhere in the local region. But the most telling detail lies in the perfectly cylindrical holes drilled straight through its axis. Holes so uniform and smooth, they suggest the use of tools far beyond simple handcraft. This object is a perfect, isolated paradox. None of the known indigenous cultures of the area left behind anything quite like it, and the combination of symbols does not neatly align with any specific tribal tradition. It simply appears in the historical record as if dropped from the sky, a beautifully crafted question with no answer. This is the essence of an archaeological orphan, an object stripped of all context. It could be a record of a forgotten ceremony, a traveler's talisman from a distant land, or the work of a solitary artistic genius whose culture has vanished completely. The stone's loneliness is what gives it power. It reminds us that for every grand civilization that left pyramids and temples, there may have been countless smaller, unique societies whose entire legacy consists of a single, inexplicable object. These solitary enigmas are the whispers of history, suggesting that our map of the past is not just missing a few details, but entire continents of human experience. Deep within a remote Chinese mountain, a collection of rust-colored pipes emerges from the stone as if part of the rock itself. These are the Baigong Pipes, a network of tubular structures in various diameters, some running horizontally across a cliff face and others plunging straight down into the earth in a seemingly deliberate arrangement. They are found in a location so isolated that there is no record of modern industry, no roads, no infrastructure to explain their presence. When samples were subjected to geological testing, the results only deepened the mystery. The material was indeed primarily iron oxide, but the suggested age was staggering, placing their formation thousands of years in the past. The most widely accepted scientific explanation proposes that these are not pipes at all, but the fossilized remains of ancient tree roots. In this process, over immense spans of time, the organic material of the roots decayed and was gradually replaced by iron-rich minerals seeping from the surrounding rock, effectively creating a perfect stone cast of the original root system. This natural phenomenon, known as mineral replacement, is a well-documented geological process. Yet, what continues to fuel speculation is the uncanny uniformity of these structures. Many of the pipes are remarkably consistent in their cylindrical shape, and their layout with straight lines and right-angle intersections feels less like the random spread of a forest and more like the design of a planned system. This is the core of the enigma, the blurred line where the patient artistry of nature creates forms that scream of human intention. The Baigong Pipes present a profound challenge to our perception. They force us to ask how we distinguish a masterpiece of geology from the ruins of a forgotten industry. If a natural process can produce something that looks so meticulously engineered, what does that say about other ancient sites we have dismissed as impossible? This discovery humbles us, reminding that our planet holds the blueprints for its own mysteries, and sometimes the most compelling secrets are not built by hands, but grown from the earth itself over millions of years. Deep within the mines of South Africa, lodged in rock layers nearly 3 billion years old, miners have unearthed objects that defy any natural explanation. Known as the grooved spheres, these metallic objects are perfectly round and feature 3 parallel grooves etched with precision around their equators. They are not random mineral formations, they possess a symmetry and design that screams of intelligent craftsmanship. The rock in which they are found, however, tells a story that makes this craftsmanship impossible. This is the Precambrian era, a time when Earth was a vast, alien world. The atmosphere was toxic, the land barren, and the only life was microscopic, single-celled organisms just beginning their evolutionary journey. There were no plants, no animals, no tool using hands. According to everything we know, there was no intelligence on the planet capable of even conceiving of a sphere, let alone carving one from metal with such exacting geometric detail. This creates the ultimate chronological contradiction. If these objects are natural, they are a form of mineral concretion so perfectly formed that it mimics a manufactured item with an almost impossible fidelity. Yet their consistent shape and deliberate grooves push against this explanation. If they are artificial, their existence forces a monumental rewrite of our planet's entire history. It suggests the presence of a technological intelligence at a point in deep time so remote that it predates complex life itself. This discovery does not just challenge our timeline of human civilization, it challenges the fundamental narrative of life's development on Earth. It asks us to consider whether we are the first masters of this world, or merely the latest in a cycle so long that all other traces have been erased by the unimaginable expanse of geological ages. These stones stand in silent, orderly files, an army of granite sentinels stretching for miles across the French countryside. The Carnac Alignments comprise over 3,000 individual standing stones, erected over a period of thousands of years, a project of staggering patience and coordination. Walking among them, you are not in a random field of rubble. You are in a grand, open-air cathedral designed for a purpose we can no longer grasp. The most logical theories point to the sky, suggesting the rose functioned as a colossal astronomical calendar, their alignments marking the solstices and tracking celestial cycles to guide planting and harvest. Other researchers propose they served as a form of seismic early warning system, with the carefully balanced stones sensitive to the subtle tremors of distant earthquakes. Yet for every compelling theory, a counterpoint emerges, leaving the stone's true function shrouded in an impenetrable mist of time. What is undeniable is the sheer, sustained will required for their creation. This was not the work of a single generation, but a cultural project spanning centuries, a sacred duty passed from parents to children for longer than our entire modern era has existed. That continuity of purpose is perhaps the greatest mystery of all. It speaks to a shared belief so powerful, so central to their identity, that it compelled an entire society to dedicate its collective life to the placement of stones. The Carnac Alignments are a monument to a lost conversation, a dialogue between a people and their world that was conducted in a language of granite and horizon. We can measure the stones, map their positions, and analyze their geology, but we cannot hear the question they were built to ask. They stand as a humbling reminder of the vast chasm that can separate our modern interpretations from the profound, lived intentions of the ancient world. These ancient artists looked to the sky for their inspiration, painting a mystery in ochre and charcoal on the vast stone canvases of the Sahara. At the Tassili en-Najer site in Algeria, a sprawling gallery of thousands of cave paintings documents the life of a people across millennia, from scenes of vibrant wildlife to the daily rituals of a lost world. Among these familiar images are figures that stand out with jarring strangeness, the so-called round heads. These humanoid forms are depicted wearing what appear to be bulky, one-piece suits, their bodies completely encased in a smooth, featureless material. Most strikingly, their heads are enclosed within large, perfectly spherical helmets, devoid of any facial features, suggesting a sealed environment. To the modern eye, the resemblance to contemporary astronauts or deep-sea divers is immediate and unsettling. Mainstream archaeology offers a compelling symbolic interpretation. Scholars suggest these figures represent shamanic beings or ritual dancers, their unusual forms symbolizing a state of spiritual transformation or a connection to otherworldly realms. The round heads could symbolize a sense of unity with the cosmos, or the artists may have been depicting individuals wearing ceremonial masks and garments made from gourds or other natural materials. This view grounds the art firmly in the known spiritual practices of ancient cultures, where the line between the human and the divine was often blurred through elaborate costume. Yet the visual parallel is so precise that it refuses to be dismissed entirely. If these were simply stylized humans, why the consistent emphasis on a fully enclosed, pressurized-looking suit? Why the absence of any personal identity, any hint of the individual beneath the helmet? The paintings force a difficult but fascinating conversation about the nature of interpretation itself. When we look at ancient art, we are always viewing it through the filter of our own modern knowledge and experiences. We see a spherical helmet and our minds immediately go to space travel, because that is a powerful symbol in our own technological mythology. The original artists, however, may have been depicting something entirely different, something that existed within their own reality. Perhaps they were illustrating visionary experiences from deep trance states, encounters with beings that their culture understood as gods or spirits from the sky. The physical form they gave these beings, the protective suit and helmet, might have been their best attempt to represent entities that did not belong to their earthly environment. Whether these figures are records of spiritual visions or literal depictions of strange visitors, their true meaning is locked in the past. The Tassili paintings do not provide easy answers, but they powerfully challenge our assumptions. They ask us to consider that ancient art might not be purely symbolic or purely literal, but a complex fusion of both, a record of profound experiences that we can no longer fully access. They remind us that our ancestors were keen observers of their world, and sometimes what they chose to record on stone continues to echo with a mystery that transcends time. These scattered keys from our past begin to form a startling pattern when viewed together. They are not random anomalies, but pieces of a single, profound puzzle. The first and most compelling theme is the repeated whisper of lost high technologies. We are not merely finding advanced artifacts, we are finding evidence of entire fields of understanding that seem to vanish from the human record for thousands of years. The principles of electrical current, the precision mathematics for creating analog computers, the aerodynamic science for stable flight, these are not isolated quirks. They appear across different continents and cultures, in Egypt, in Iraq, in the Mediterranean. suggesting that such knowledge was not a one-time fluke, but perhaps a branch of science that was discovered, utilized, and then tragically forgotten in a great reset of human civilization. This pattern forces us to question the very definition of progress. What if our current technological age is not the first, but merely the latest to unlock these particular secrets of the universe? Equally widespread is the evidence of sophisticated astronomical knowledge. From the celestial gears of the Antikythera Mechanism to the skyward alignments of the Carnac Stones and the Nazca Plains, ancient peoples demonstrated a deep, intimate connection to the cosmos. They tracked complex planetary movements, mapped constellations with stone, and built monuments that functioned as giant calendars. This was not primitive stargazing, it was a precise science, a global language written in the movements of the heavens. Such consistent, advanced understanding points to a shared, perhaps universally disseminated, body of knowledge that connected disparate cultures. It hints at a forgotten epoch when humanity looked up not in superstition, but with the keen eye of a scientist, charting the skies with an accuracy that would not be rivaled for millennia. These common threads weave together into the most challenging implication of all, the death of the linear timeline. Our traditional story of history is a simple ascent, a climb from primitive hunter-gatherer to modern city dweller, each step building logically on the last. But these 25 discoveries tell a different, more dramatic story. They speak of brilliant peaks and deep valleys, of golden ages that rose to breathtaking heights of achievement only to collapse into silence. The narrative that emerges is not one of steady progress but of a great cycle. Civilizations, with all their knowledge and technology, can flourish and then be lost, their libraries burned, their engineers gone, their wisdom dissolving into myth. This cyclical view humbles our modern arrogance. It suggests that our own technological society, for all its power, may not be the ultimate pinnacle of human endeavor. We may simply be one more chapter in a long, epic story, a story where entire civilizations have risen, achieved wonders we can barely comprehend, and then faded away, leaving behind only silent, stone questions for us to find. Our journey through these 25 forgotten discoveries reveals a history far more complex and wondrous than any single textbook could ever contain. From a modern hammer sealed in ancient rock to a medieval map of an ice-free continent, each artifact represents a distinct crack in the solid foundation of our established timelines. These are not mere curiosities to be filed away, but profound invitations to question everything we think we know about our past. They challenge us to wonder, to explore, and to fundamentally rethink our own place in the grand narrative of time. Above all, these silent witnesses from forgotten ages teach us a vital lesson in humility. They show us that our current understanding of history is not a final verdict, but a provisional draft, always one discovery away from being rewritten. The past is not a closed book sitting on a shelf, but a living, breathing investigation that continues to this very day. The greatest discovery we can make is this realization itself, that the story of humanity is an epic still being uncovered. We encourage you to take this curiosity with you, to delve deeper into these incredible mysteries, and to question the narratives you have always been taught. Share your own thoughts on these enigmas in the comments below, and if you are ready for more journeys into the unknown, be sure to subscribe. The next great mystery is waiting just around